As the number of youth with autism spectrum disorder continues to grow, so does the need to help youth and young and their families transition on their journey to adulthood. As part of this journey, it is our pleasure to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, Carrie Cariello. Carrie lives in southern New Hampshire with her husband Joe and their 5 children. Her second child, Jack, is on the autism spectrum. Carrie shares her family's journey, the challenges, fears, and inspirations through wonderfully written writing in her weekly blog and 2 acclaimed memoirs, What Color is Monday and Someone I'm With Has Autism. Carrie is a regular contributor to the Huffington Post, Autism Speaks, and has appeared on the Today Show and speaks all over the country. She recently presented at TEDx, A Letter to Jack, which inspired us after watching it to invite her tonight. So please join me in welcoming Carrie Cariello.
Thank you. How is this? Good? Well, what an honor to be here. I am so grateful to have gotten the chance to meet many of you beforehand at the reception. What a beautiful group, and I'm just so excited to have the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Before I really get started, I just wanted to point out that my husband Joe is here with me. The reason I pointed out is I'm going to say a lot of embarrassing things about him. You will find funny, and I want you to know right where to look. So I've had the opportunity to present to quite a few different groups now over the years, and every time I'm invited to something like this, I begin preparing in exactly the same way. I run over to my computer and I start researching all the latest statistics about autism. I go online and I look up exactly what the numbers are. You know, at one point it was 1 in 100, then it was 1 in 88, and now the numbers seem to hover around 1 in 55. But the conclusion is kind of the same. Autism is on the rise. Then I poke around into all different websites to see if science has figured out where it's all coming from or what's causing it. And then lastly, I pull up a bunch of articles about gluten-free diets and hyperbaric chambers and therapy dogs and vaccines and allergies. And then I look it all over and I try to put together a talk. And then I realize I don't really care about all that stuff so much because my son has autism. My son has autism. His name is Jack. He is 11. He's the second of our 5 children. He's funny. He's tall. He loves to bake cakes. And he wears turtlenecks all winter long. And if we let him, he would eat Pillsbury crescent rolls every night with dinner. Only he pronounces them crescent rolls. In our house, we like to say that Jack has his finger on the pulse. He knows everybody's schedule and all of our whereabouts and what time dinner is going to be and whether or not there's a new video for America's Funniest Home Video Show. And one day last week, he was lingering over his nightly bowl of ice cream, and he looked over sort of the family calendar and noticed that his father and I would be out tonight. And he demanded to know where we would be. He said, well, Jack, I'm going to go talk to a group of people about autism. He hesitated, and then in his mixed-up speech, he said to me, I think for you, that will be hard. And I said, why? And he said, for you don't know about autism. You are for just my mother. And the next morning, I went back and did exactly the same thing I always do when I'm writing a talk. I deleted all the statistics. I erased everything about gluten-free pretzels and all the research and the notes, because I don't want to talk about that. I never really did. Instead, I sat down and wrote a letter to my son, Jack. See, he's not here tonight, but I want you to be able to see him and hear him and feel him as if he was standing right next to me. I'd like to share that letter with you right now. Dear Jack, not long ago, someone asked me what it was like to have a son who was diagnosed with autism. And I shrugged my shoulders and I said, it's fine. But for the rest of that day, I thought about this question. I tried to come up with the words to describe what it's like to be your mother. It's as if for your whole life, you've told yourself you don't like pickles. Pickles are weird. You hope you never ever have to deal with a pickle. Then one day, the guy at the deli makes your sandwich and he forgets that he puts pickles on it. And you're really hungry, and there's no other choice, so you bite into the sandwich with the pickles. And you're surprised to find that they are crunchy and tart and tasty. In their own way, pickles add flavor to the rest of the sandwich. Sure, sometimes they do make you bite your tongue, and they're very sour and they bring tears to your eyes. But from this point forward, you cannot live without pickles. Pickles have changed your life. Jack, when you were born, your older brother Joey was just a year old. So we had kind of an idea of what that first year of development should look like. We waited for you to play peekaboo with us. You didn't. We waited for you to do that cute little doorknob wave that all those little kids do, but you never did. We waited, holding our breath, for you to put your chubby little feet into our shoes and shuffle around the kitchen, but it never happened. Then when you were about 14 months old, we started to see specialists because you never pointed or cooed or babbled. You spoke no words. So they tested everything. They tested your hearing and the way you stacked blocks and asked you to point to pictures of puppies and umbrellas and the sun and the moon. And time after time, we watched through a window while they guided your hand around a puzzle piece or helped you to grip a crayon. And I don't know if you remember this, Jack, but several different therapists did exactly the same thing. They would bring out this fake birthday cake and a grubby, balding birthday baby doll with the kind of eyelids that moved up and down on their own. And whoever was testing you at the time would start to clap cheerfully and sing, "Happy birthday, Johnny. Jack, can you sing to the baby?" And you just sat there staring off into space. I hated that doll. In fact, and I know this isn't a nice thing to say, Jack, but there are times when I wanted to punch that doll in its grubby little face. But eventually, we learned that you were speech delayed. We learned you had something called sensory issues, and social play made absolutely no sense to you. We learned that you have autism. Now, there are lots of numbers, Jack, and graphs and charts and articles written about autism. People call these things research and statistics. But when it comes to your diagnosis, there is so much the statistics don't say and the articles don't explain. They don't talk about the way you fill our house with music, or how you know the population of Zimbabwe. But the other day you asked me what the word brave meant, or that you hate math and love pancakes and wake up every single day of your life by 5:43 in the morning. Statistics never once prepared me for the evening when we all watched The Wizard of Oz. We'd seen it a few times before, but you really wanted to watch it again. So we all settled into the story of Dorothy and the Tin Man, the Lion and the Scarecrow. And when the movie was over, you said, "The lion, he has autism." And I asked you why. Why would you think that? And you hesitated for a moment, searching for the word you needed. And then you answered in your halting tone, "Because he is afraid all the time." And all the research in the world never once warned me that one day I would sit on our big red couch next to you and feel my heart shatter. See, Jack, you have lived in fear every day since you were about 6 years old, when anxiety first started to wind around your soul like a silent, slithering snake. It is ruthless and relentless. It makes you afraid of everything, from fire drills to fireworks, the wind chill factor, and trying any new foods. All day long, you work so hard to keep this snake in his cage. You cover your ears when you see the trucks come. You screw up your face to take the smallest bite of a chicken quesadilla. You zip your coat up against the cold. And you take your little white pill every night before bed. You do not give in to the snake's ceaseless beckoning, and that, Jack, is what it means to be brave. What's really interesting about you, Jack, is how much you love to travel, to see new places and fly on planes and see the world. Yet I have to admit that whenever we travel, it feels as though someone is shining the brightest light upon your diagnosis. Your unusual speech and your language delay and your rigidity You know, the need to bring 14 chapsticks and your special blanket and your schedule wherever we go makes it even all that much more glaring. Like the time we went to Disney last November and we had dinner very late the first night in a busy, crowded restaurant. There was a man laughing very loudly behind us. And the woman, Jack, remember sitting next to us? She was wearing Christmas lights that were blinking off and on around her neck. The entire place smelled like crab legs. And you started to twitch your fingers and pull at your hair. And I asked you to try and stay calm. And you looked over at me and you said, "What the hell are we doing here? It is 9:17. I go to bed at 8:30 p.m. And then there was the next day we were waiting in line for the ride in Epcot. And you turned to ask me if it would snow at home soon. The woman behind us smiled and said, "Oh, you said it. You said that nasty word, snow." Snow is not nasty. Snow is nice. You are freaking wrong. And do you remember Boylston, Jack? The waiter in the restaurant that had the zebras and the giraffes right outside of the window? Boylston told us he was from Botswana, which you reminded all of us is in Africa. After we ordered our lunch and Boylston came back to refill our water glasses, I asked if there were a lot of people with autism in Africa. Oh yes. He smiled at me. It was not a real smile that made his face look happy, but more like he stretched the corners of his mouth. It is everywhere. I was curious about this, so I asked him all about the services and evaluations and doctors. And he just looked at me and smiled once more, gentle like this time. He shook his head. You know, there was a boy in our village who could not hear a single sound, nothing at all. But still, we found a way to talk to him. We loved him. Jack, you're 11 now. Waiting for peekaboo and the doorknob wave and chubby feet stuffed into the shoe seems like ages ago. Puberty has begun. And your body is starting to make its long, steady climb towards adulthood. The other night, after the rest of the kids had left the dinner table, you sat back down in your chair and you asked, "What is the sex all about?" And Daddy and I looked at each other, and we stayed quiet. And he said, "Do you have it with your clothes on?" Not exactly. How long? Is it for 15 minutes? Or 2 hours? That depends. Do you have to hug? Sometimes. It is something you should only do with your wife, Daddy said. You have had it? You have had the sex? Well, yes, he said. You are disgusting. Oh, my Jackaboo. You know, we've had one of the warmest winters on record here in New Hampshire. But despite that, it still feels like it's snowing inside of our house. For almost 3 months now, I have been trying to find you in the middle of autism's cold, harsh blizzard. You don't sleep. You're aggressive and mean and angry and remote and far, far away. Your body is in a constant state of deregulation and you've bitten your fingernails down to the quick. You're lost to this complicated combination of puberty, anxiety, and depression, all magnified by the spectrum disorder. I can't find you. I don't know where you are. And I am scared. Jack, a lot of times people ask me questions about autism. They want to know if I have any answers when it comes to big important ideas like cognitive flexibility, or expressive language, or self-regulation. And I never really have anything useful to tell them. But lately when they ask me about this stuff, I think about a day in January when your school called me to pick you up because you were having a meltdown about something to do with a computer and you weren't safe to ride the bus. I jumped in the car and raced over, and I rushed into the doors and down the hall. And I saw people bustling all over with walkie-talkies in their hands. And they were saying things like we had to clear the room to keep everyone safe. And I thought the bright, white, hot light in my brain, they were talking about you. They had to keep everyone safe from you, my gentle giant, my turtleneck wearer, my cake baker. When I got there, you were all huddled into the corner of the empty classroom, sobbing big, huge, empty gulps of air and rocking. Your cheeks were as red as if you'd been outside all day. And you looked broken. Do you remember, Jack? I know you do. I walked slowly toward you, as if you were like a rare, delicate bird who would fly off into the clouds if I moved too fast. When I reached you, you stood up, and I folded you into my arms, careful. So careful not to wrap you too tight. And you laid your head on my shoulder and we swayed together, lightly, like leaves in the soft breeze, and you wept and I wept. I wept because of you and for you and with you. Take me home now. See, the thing is, Jack, I have no answers. I have no answers when you rage and scream and try to eat your math homework because you're furious I won't let you watch TV until it's finished. I have no answers when I walk into the classroom and see the shame and fear and confusion in your eyes because you had done the calculations in your head ahead of time. 19 computers for 21 kids. And you were terrified you wouldn't get a turn, but you couldn't find the words to explain it all. I especially have no answers when you want to know how long sex should last. It is still snowing in our house. But when I feel myself getting lost in the blizzard with you, I force myself to think about a kind man who traveled across the world, all the way from Africa to an amusement park in Florida. I think of a small boy sitting in a soundless village. We found a way to talk to him. We loved him. See, the thing is, Jack, I don't have to know everything there is about autism. I just have to be for your mother. I have to remember the small mercies, the baby steps forward, and the one time we went out for lunch when you took your very first bite of a dill pickle and you said, "It is for better than I think." There were so many things I wanted to say to you that day we stood together in the empty classroom, swaying like leaves. I wanted to say I am sorry. I wanted to tell you I will never give up on you, that I will keep reaching over and over into your storms until I feel your fingers graze mine and I can pull you toward me and out into the sun. Mostly I wanted to say, hold on, Jack. Hold on to me. Hold on to yourself for just a little while coming. Spring is coming, Jacobin. Spring is coming.